Good leaders. What do they look like, and what does it really mean to be a good leader? Someone who delivers results? Someone who guides your people? Someone who makes bold and creative decisions? I remember how I had to wrestle with these questions during one of my homework assignments in middle school. We were reading stories about historical heroes and about their leadership styles. Though there were many differences in what they did and how they led, many of them were similar in that they were often the loudest, tallest, boldest, and most influential. Charisma and good communication have always come up as key skills, which made sense if you think about it. But as I looked at my own skills and my interest in leadership, I wondered, if you're not the tallest or the loudest, does that mean you are not a good leader? Is really being the loudest or the boldest the only form of good leadership? I'm glad that more work experience and leadership learning taught me that it's not true. Good leadership comes in many forms, and I'm glad we're starting to appreciate different types of leadership even more. Leaders who serve for good with a good heart. Hi, welcome to Dear Workplace, where we study changes, trends, and challenges in the workplace. I'm Monica Kang, founder and CEO of InnovatorsBox and the host of this podcast. Today, I'm eager to dive all into the changes we are seeing in leadership.
It's hard work. It's extremely hard to do what you're describing, Monica, because most of the people that we work with are seasoned leaders who have been around and had success. So it's not going to be likely that they're going to be like, okay, guess what? I'm going to change tomorrow.
If I were to define a moment in time that I completely shifted and saw myself through this lens, that was it. And that's what took us to that thing about you have to walk into a space with an open heart, approaching things through this lens of love, through this lens of caring, through this lens of I'm a human being, you're a human being.
For me, the ultimate driver was, you treat others how you would like to be treated yourself. Just because you're a head of a team or a manager doesn't mean you have to rule with an iron fist per se, or you can't be empathetic.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are leadership is a topic you already care deeply about. Whether you are currently a leader looking to be a better leader, or someone who wants to step into a leadership role, you're already here because you care about leadership. So I ask, as we get started today with an intentional question, what does good leadership mean to you? And how has your definition changed over time?
In the 50s, with these approaches, if you look back at some of the very well-founded and well-researched, even though stupid, but very well-founded, well-researched articles on leadership that were published in peer-reviewed journals, they actually list masculinity as a requirement for leaders. They use the word masculinity, and you look at that today and you're like, are you kidding me? And so a lot of that just never really left.
Meet Dr. Patrick Malone, the Director of Key Executive Leadership Program at the American University. Patrick has studied leadership and organizational analysis for over 20 years. His most recent book, Leading with Love and Laughter with Dr. Zina B, Sutch, an adjunct professor at American University, studies the power of leadership and rethinking what good leadership means. Both Zina and Patrick's work on leadership is crucial, as not only are they teaching executives today on how to be a better leader, but also because they have extensive historical research and understanding of how we got stuck into this misconception of what good leadership means, and why we urgently need to change this for good. So I asked them both, where do we start? Why do we get stuck with such a misconception on good leadership? And how do we think leadership is changing for good?
Those are two really good questions, yeah.
I think if I were to take a guess, I would say that if we look historically at what boss meant, what a leader meant, think back to the factory worker and the floor man or the foreman. Sorry, I called him the floor man. I meant the foreman.
And that's the same.
And that's what they used to be called. And they were the supervisor. And then you have your next level. It was all about productivity And it was like a widget thing. It was, how many can you produce? How many? And we still have that today. How many calls will you answer in a call center? How many sales will you make in an hour? How many people will you contact with a cold call? So there's this idea that when you're a supervisor, you have to eliminate all of this excess time, excess gratification, I guess, that people would get just from connecting with each other, laughing with each other. And people will say, oh, if my boss saw me laughing, they think I'm not working. And I think it stems from that historical perception.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you go back to 130 years back into leadership theory, you see one of the very first early theories was the great man theory, and there's so much wrong with that, obviously. but it got worse because it went from that, and then in around the 20s, around the 30s and 40s, this kind of humanist approach to leadership started to come out. But then it got replaced right away, right after World War II. In the 50s, with these approaches, if you look back at some of the very well-founded and well-researched, even though stupid, but very well-founded, well-researched articles on leadership that were published in peer-reviewed journals, they actually list masculinity as a requirement for leaders. They use the word masculinity, and you look at that today and you're like, are you kidding me? And so a lot of that just never really left. And the biases that we carry, and I think the biases and the social constructs that our nation carries about what makes a leader have not really truly transformed. And your question, Monica, about what's different now, I really believe, we've talked a lot about this, that we are on the precipice now of a significant change and a lasting change, because about 11.5 million people during the summer left the workforce. They're calling it the Great Resignation. It was a term coined by a professor down at Texas A&M, and it's real. And people are leaving because they've realized, you know what? I don't need this anymore. I don't need this. I don't need the big place. I can live on less money. If I'm in a 2-person income family, maybe my partner can earn and I can do that. And they're not coming back because they want organizations that are willing to be transparent and trusting and loving and caring and compassionate. And this whole idea of, okay, well, now it's time to get back to work. I'm like, excuse me, we've all been working. And not only have we all been working in the COVID environment, but we've been succeeding and sometimes over succeeding.
Wow. I mean, considering how things have evolved, this certainly puts things into perspective. I resonated very much with these insights because, as I said earlier, I too felt like charisma, boldness, and being loud were the qualities of a leader growing up. It didn't help that a lot of the figures that I learned in history, business, or real life often celebrated male leaders. And unconsciously, as Patrick said, I would see being bold and courageous as masculine characteristics. Or like, to be a good leader, you had to be tough. I felt conflicted, as it made me feel like to be a good leader, either I had to let go of my values of who I am as a person, or that I had to let go of my interest in leadership to be myself. Why can't I do both? I'm not the only one who thought of this, as I caught up with Phil Jung, who reflected on how these misconceptions of leadership at times drive us to be the leader we hope to see more in society. Leaders who deliver but also care deeply for its people. Phil comes from a world where most leaders are often celebrated for being cutthroat, direct, and masculine. From Silicon Valley to Washington, D.C., working in tech, finance, startup, and venture capital meant he has both seen and had a lot of experience working with diverse leaders, some amazing ones and some horrible ones. And throughout his journey, he was always aware how there were not enough kind leaders, as well as diverse leaders. He would often be one of the few non-white men in the room. And I'd add, he was one of the few who really asked you how you are as a person. I asked Phil what helped him be the kind and caring leader he is today, even when he is in industries that often don't value those as much initially.
It's a really interesting question, one that I haven't really sat down and thought specifically about too much, but I think it's shaped by a lot of my experiences and what I've seen in terms of behaviors that I want to model and those that I don't. So starting off my career rather in the technology consulting world in Silicon Valley, you see a lot of interesting behavior, both in the industry, but also from your direct managers and peers and colleagues. And a big driver for me considering going to grad school was, as I worked my way up in my career, I saw people at the director, partner levels. Hey, I really admire and respect how they treat people, how they treat clients, their colleagues, and people underneath them in terms of org chart. And I saw people that rammed their way into the top two. And it struck me, you see both types of executives or leaders. So it's not like there's only one path, but what kind of leader or manager do I want to be when I grow up and develop in my career? And part of my impetus, desire to go to grad school was to learn some of these management best practices in different settings. And when I got to grad school, I saw the same thing. People come to grad school for different reasons, but I saw during the MBA, you work very closely in case teams and do projects together. So you see different leadership styles. And for me, the ultimate driver was, you treat others how you would like to be treated yourself. Just because you're a head of a team or a manager doesn't mean you have to rule with an iron fist per se, or you can't be empathetic or see your direct reports as less than or inferior or incapable or anything like that. And that has served me well throughout my career, especially in the venture side and also being an operator now. I've built teams in both settings at the board level where we're hiring and building out executive management teams. Now at a company where I'm building out functional departments and an HR team and a finance team, for example. And no matter what level, I think being very genuine, but also empathetic and understanding as a leader is a skill that you don't necessarily learn in a classroom setting, but it's through experience and having been an employee, a junior employee, and I've seen good and bad leadership examples. And you kind of forge your own path of what leader you would like to be based on how I would have liked to have been treated as somebody who was an associate or an analyst. And so that's how I've tried to model my personal journey, just treating others how I would have liked to be treated or would like to be treated even now. And it's really interesting being on the startup side of things and having gone through multiple rounds of raising capital. I have a lot more appreciation for when I meet with investors of, well, why are you asking me this question? Is it just because it's one of the diligence questions on your list? Or are you truly interested in what some of my day-to-day challenges are of running and operating a business? And are you going to help me to achieve our common goals? And how are you going to go about doing so? I mean, those types of learnings for me being on the opposite side now have been really, really insightful. And I have so much more respect for founders, people like yourself, Monica, who charted their own path and take the leap in terms of what they're building.
Yes, we choose who we want to be. Both good and bad experiences help shape why we want to be who we want to be and how we want to lead. It reminded me why Phil stood out when I first met him at the many tech events in DC. He was so down to earth, caring, and respectful to every person he engaged that I didn't realize he was an investor or leading so many projects. When you speak with him, he is fully there with you, and he makes you feel heard and understood. It was different from many of the other leaders I met in this space who seemed always busy and aimed to talk to someone else because they didn't have the time to be there for you. Phil's reflection on this question was a powerful reminder also to how we can choose who we want to be as a leader. It may be hard, but pause and ask yourself, who do you want to be as a leader? Today, Phil is the CFO of Mandula Health, a population health management company transforming behavioral healthcare. He oversees a lot of the key finance and business decisions of this fast-growing startup that has grown from a 70-plus team to a 300-plus team. That's a lot of people to care for. Tell me a bit more about your journey building your team.
Mandula, yes, we are a technology company, but we're not just a technology company. Our tech platform serves and empowers our case management team so that we can in turn deliver care for the patients and members that we serve. So at the core of what we do, it's all about the people. And so if we aren't investing in our people and our teams and our employees, then it's unfair for us to expect them to go out and then serve and support the members and patients. So that's been a huge focus for us culturally as an organization as we scale and build our company.
Caring for your people and wholeheartedly is a key leadership skill. And I'm glad we have more leaders like Phil who are prioritizing that more. But how can we learn how to be a better caring leader? What if some of us are newer to this skill? Zina and Patrick share no problem, as long as you're willing to take the marathon approach. Changing how we think, To change how we lead will not be overnight, and it is hard work, but it's so important to carve out time to do so. Start by recognizing you'll want and need to carve out time for it.
It's hard work. It's extremely hard to do what you're describing, Monica, because most of the people that we work with are seasoned leaders who have been around and had success. So it's not going to be likely that they're going to be like, okay, guess what? I'm going to change tomorrow.
Right.
But so what they have to do is, we're very strong advocates of all the quadrants of emotional intelligence, very heavy on self-awareness. And what we recommend, one simple task for leaders or for anyone really is to make a list. And on one side of a column, on one column, put down the roles that one plays. So maybe I'm a parent, maybe I'm a brother or a sister or a partner or a project manager or a coach, whatever I happen to be, all those roles that we play. And then in the next column, write down the feeling that you immediately feel when you think of yourself in that role. It's a perfect way to get a handle on kind of what we are feeling. We go through life with so much interruptions, time, space, sound, everything. We don't take the time to ever sit back and really reflect and discern about who we are or who we've become. And we change daily. So making that list and then making the third column about the first action that we feel like we need to take. Now we're covering self-awareness, we're covering self-management. And then to your point about making people uncomfortable, it's important that we know how to read a room. The simple act of noticing is crucial. And we get there through these thoughtful, mindful, meditative ways. And it doesn't have to be writing in a journal or meditating while doing yoga. It can be through gardening or walking or going to the gym or just a long drive, but making the time for self. And most of what we see with the leaders that we work with is we tell them, you need to slow down. You're already there. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Just back off, relax a little bit, take a deep breath, and allow for that time to go so that your brain can think. I mean, your brain gets overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, and when you think about, so this exercise is going to be hard for some people. I don't want to say a lot, I don't know, but it will be hard for some people because so many of us in this very high-tech world with this bombardment of data and information coming at us all the time, whether it be family, work, what we're looking at on our phone, the buzzing, the ringing, the dinging from all the different messages that you're getting on your phone, we have really separated ourselves from our feelings. I kind of want to call it like a numb coma or something where we walk around just doing exactly what we did the day before, behaving the same way.
In the roles
that we've always been. And we don't necessarily know how we feel. So what we try to say is, even if at first you write down all these roles, and even if at first you can't even come up with a word or something that describes how you feel or how you see yourself in that role, just cut yourself a break. Come back to it another time. And then sit down and start getting back in touch with your body, because your body and your mind are connected. Think about how your stomach feels. Think about your breathing. Think about your aches and pains in your shoulders because you're sitting at the laptop too much. Start there, because that you can start explaining faster. You can get in touch with that faster than what your emotions are telling you. And I think the more that you can do that and practice it and just keep trying it, the better you're going to be at it. And you'll take those small steps.
And this is just the beginning. Zina and Patrick speak further in their research and book, Leading with Love and Laughter, Letting Go, and Getting Real at Work, why good leaders today are leaders who not only care but also can create a safe workplace that others can express care, share laughter, and give appreciation with one another.
It may sound kind of corny, but I mean, really, we talk a lot about how do we make this world a better place? I mean, how do we, every interaction, every human to human interaction that we have, whether it be when I get in the car and drive over to the grocery store or whatever it is, I mean, all of them, we come into contact with a lot of people, and all of those little contacts are little moments of truth, and we can make life better for people if we keep in mind, that everybody's got a story, everyone has a need to be loved, everyone has a need to be cared for.
Everyone needs joy.
And everyone needs joy.
We all need to also be able to deal with stressors and deal with situations and laugh at ourselves.
And we know
at a situation.
And we know scientifically that there's just only the biggest idiot on the planet now would suggest that a lack of soft skills doesn't matter. It is exactly what leadership is. It's all about, because when you feel the way we're describing, when you feel that joy and the happiness and the love and the caring, you're more innovative, you're healthier, you're less likely to leave your job. I mean, everything's good. So why are we focusing on processes and certifications and this, that? Yeah. This is really where the beginning is. And once we get this down, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a loving leader and you're a leader that helps make people relax at work and be able to laugh with you and see you as just as human as they are, you're not going to have turnover. You're going to have so much better engaged employees. And here's the other big thing. You're going to have a better time. You as a leader are walking in there into the space of love and fun and joy and seriousness at the same time. And I even found that the more trusting, loving relationships I've developed with people that work for me, the easier it is for me to give them constructive feedback, because they see me approaching them not as that big boss standing on some soapbox telling them what to do. They see it as, oh, Zina's trying to help me. She's trying to help me get better. It's not that she's trying to tell me how bad I am. She's trying to show me what I need to do to improve. And I want to improve for her, but I also want to improve for my colleagues, because this is the kind of space we've created.
Yes! Yes! When caring leaders are a norm, not only are people at work happier, but we are too. And I agree with Zina's wonderful insight about feedback. As leaders, we should both give and receive feedback with the understanding that it's mutually beneficial for everyone. I asked Phil if he had any other advice on how we could have this caring mindset as a leader and as a person. His response? Don't expect there is one path. Find your own path.
What top questions I get asked from people younger in their careers, from people in grad school, it's, what's the path? What do I need to do specifically to get into management consulting or the venture capital route or the startup route? And I would say, if you look at my path, there's no clear, logical, linear path to where I ended up, right? I mean, everybody's path is different. Whether you're striving to become an investor or even ending up at a startup. And just because something worked for me doesn't mean that it'll work for you. But for me, optimizing for learning and taking advantage of opportunities that, yes, some come your way, but you also have to create those opportunities for yourself. If you look at Monica's trajectory, her background, who would have thought she would be the CEO founder of this great organization today? No one would have guessed that, but she challenged herself and pushed herself to think, how can I marry my personal interests with my passions and make it a career, something that I love doing, as opposed to some of your earlier work experiences too. So that really resonates with me, and I would echo that for everybody that's listening, and that served me well. Money will come in terms of salary and comp. Sure, maybe not in the exact timeline that you're hoping for, but, and I get it, it's easier said than done based on personal circumstance and situations, totally appreciative of that. But I've also seen folks who, if you're really interested and passionate about something and you pursue that with your whole heart, you can make a career out of that and you can succeed and do well in that. And especially if you find your common tribe of your support network, people who believe in you, that spur you on. And I've seen amazing things happen, both on the entrepreneurial side and other kind of professional career-wise too. So hey, those are some of the last thoughts that I'd share.
Aw, thanks for the shout out as well, Phil. I appreciate your support, mentorship, and friendship. And I'm so grateful that you, Zina, and Patrick could join me to talk about leadership and how it's changing for good at Dear Workplace today. So, here we are. Do we have some more work to do? Absolutely. Have we made some progress? Yes. And as you heard from all three, it's all up to each of us to make that happen. So what are you waiting for? Take a moment to jot down your thoughts today on what good leadership means to you and how you want to put in the effort to become that leader. The more each of us builds in that time and manifests it, the more we'll see this world with better, caring, and thoughtful, leading diverse leaders. If we haven't realized how important this was, now has been the time. It's going to be hard work, but an important one to do. We're here rooting for you, so let's go on this journey together. Thank you so much for joining us at Dear Workplace. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This is your host, Monica Kang, founder and CEO of InnovatorsBox. Please take a moment to check out Phil, Zina, and Patrick's work more. We left their links in our show notes. Next week, I'm eager to dive into a topic that many of us do, but some of us love or hate it: project management. That's right. Learning how to lead and rethink project workflow is so crucial, especially as we work online and in a global hybrid workplace. Curious? Join us next week at Dear Workplace to uncover more. Send any questions at info@innovatorsbox.com or at dearworkplace.com. P.S. Did you notice some new holiday music in our podcast? Yes, we just released our holiday album Pause to Wonder by InnovatorsBox Studios, and we hope you'll love it too. Tune into it at any music streaming platform. Have a great week and happy December.
Hello, I'm Monica Escobar, the visual brand designer at InnovatorsBox, and I hope you're enjoying Dear Workplace. I recently brought back a self-care ritual into my life by doing yoga every morning. Yoga relieves me any tension in my body, and I meditate through it to start my day. This show is brought together by our awesome team: Sam Limart on audio engineering and editing, Kelly Gravel on marketing, Akriti Pandey on website, me on branding, Leah Orsini on social media graphics, Sarah Piedrahita and Flor on project assistance, and Luke Helder on music. And of course, Dear Workplace is hosted and directed by Monica Kang, founder and CEO of InnovatorsBox. To continue the conversation of reimagining the workplace, visit us at innovatorsbox.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. We'd love to hear what you enjoy and what I can convince Monica to talk about in our next episodes. See you next week.
Hey, it's Monica King from InnovatorsBox. Thanks for watching this. I'm so glad you're here. I hope this inspired you to be creative, curious, and courageous. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to spread creativity for all. See you soon, and have a wonderful, magical day.